And I'm very happy to give the floor to Pille, who will maybe pick up on a few of those issues or go back a bit perhaps to our report. So please.
Okay. Thank you for being invited to be the panelist here, and thank you for Simon in terms of sort of making maybe a reality check. We make 2 reality checks already, one with the data and another one with the sort of critical interpretation of it. And I apologize to the translators for the fact that I have sent them some notes, but I will now deviate from them because I will want to take up some of those issues as to why the Estonians are so state trusting. How come? And is it the fact that we haven't learned anything from our past, really truly, or is it something else that we can point to? So we were at some point with our experts discussing the whole notion that there are 2 groups in Estonia who are best equipped to deal with the loss of privacy. They are the grandmothers who have lived through throughout their lives with the whole very certain knowledge of Big Brother watching you. The Big Brother had a distinct shape, and it was definitely everywhere. You would know your neighbors, or you would not know whether your neighbor, your co-worker, or someone else was reporting your activities to KGB. So you learned to self-censor yourself. And the other group who is very distinctly aware of the Big Brother watching you is the group of the youngest. They have learned to cope with the fact that Big Brother watches you with sort of a little bit of self-felicitating notion of, yeah, but don't have much to hide. Or I will do everything in my power to make sure that I put out there into the online space stuff that I feel okay with. We have been discussing with our there is this distinct alarmist or moral panic notion of, God, what do the young people put out there? Their party pictures and however will they get jobs when their online profiles look like they do? And to a certain extent, the young people are very aware of that loss of privacy. And they are very aware of that this privacy is a very ephemeral thing. That is, to a certain extent, there is a certain extent of acceptance. We are dealing in the world of trade-offs. And weirdly enough, the middle-aged, they are the least suspicious about their state and the big companies. And they are the least easily suspectable for the positive trade-offs that the online space offers today. So we are dealing in the notion of what do I get in return? And about the hostile neighbor and about the state doing things to us or not doing enough for us, I do believe that Estonians, being a very small population and accepting the state to a certain extent, despite the fact that there is, as in most democratic countries, a deep alienation between politicians and the people, and do we trust them or do we not? Do we trust them to take care of our best interests? There is still a very strong belief and trust in technologically driven innovation. We do believe that ICTs have brought us out of the Soviet regimes into the future. And this is something that our president, our different ministries are very actively proposing in the public discussion. And this is something we've bought into. But we've bought into it together with a group of technologies that I think Estonia is still very unique for. The whole notion of digital IDs, which actually are secure to the sort of on a scale of absolutely secure and non-usable to a moderately secure and ultimately usable technologies. They are pretty well there on the scale. They are usable. A lot of people are using those technologies, and they are accepting the protection that these technologies provide for our privacy. And to a certain extent, I'm very critical about the fact that the data is being collected about us. We don't know what is done with the data. And I do think that Estonia could set a standard here. We could take the next step and say, hey, we are the e-Estonia, the e-state, and we actually will now be the most transparent state in the whole wide world about what data we collect, what we do with the data, how we process this. This does not take away the notion of other hostile or more friendly neighbors, distant or close, watching us and collecting our data and selling the stuff to the companies and also buying the information from the companies. But that could also set a certain standard of how the notion of privacy should be dealt with in a democratic and transparent way. So one of the results we proposed at the end of the study, one of the recommendations, is dealing with the issue that we would really like that Estonia, together with the new e-residency notion, could set an example about making a visually clear, short and sweet and comparable, possibly also in the format of infographics, privacy conditions, which would then be able, you would use whichever service and you could then compare, this service takes away my privacy, these notches, and uses the data for these notions. And the next service does it similarly or differently, but there could be a gold standard from the government, which basically could say, this is how it's done. This is how you communicate to your public, to your citizens, to your neighbors and friends. This is the privacy we take away. This is the stuff that we give in return. And we could do this. We could be the first country in the whole world to make transparent, clearly legible and understandable infographics, and to give that power to people to make those decisions, whether they are okay with their privacy being exchanged for greater good.
Thank you. Perfectly on the dot of the time as well, so thank you.